Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We're going to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to our meeting. Is there someone make a motion to excuse Mike Thorner?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Peter, changes in the agenda?
Yes, we'll have an addition under communication. As we know, we'll have some outgoing board members. The last meeting will be November 28th. And then we'll have the new board members incoming take the oath of office on December 12th. I was notified that Mr. Mokel will not be able to make it to the November 28th. So we'll have recognition from Mr. Meyer, Mr. Jager on November 28th. This evening, under Communications C, we'd like to add recognition of board member Mark Mokel.
Thank you. Communication, response to public comments.
That's as a placeholder. There was no response needed this meeting. Next is B, selection of instructional materials committee members. So we have opening of 5 committee members, and we had a call for interest. We had quite a few people interested, so we put them in the bag here, and we'll have, since Mr. Mokel, your last meeting here, we'll have you draw out 5 names. Just switch it around there. There's the one. All right, the first is Daisy Perez. Next is Aubrey Harden. Next is Ellen Elliott. There you go, 2 more. Chelsea Severin, and the last name. Ivy de la Cruz. Ivy de la Cruz. All right, so Daisy Perez, Aubrey Harden, Ellen Elliott, Chelsea Severin, and Marvy de la Cruz will be added to the Instructional Materials Committee. That's the group in the spring that makes recommendations to the board for adoption of instructional materials. All right, now C, we added recognition of board member Mark Mokel. So we have a nice plaque here. I'd like to honor Mark for his service, 2 years of service, board of directors, committed to the students community since 2021. So let's give Mark a hand. Thank you. Any remarks you want to make?
No.
Okay.
It's been an honor. I chose to seek out this position twice. And being a teacher, I just hope to do good by the kids of West Valley. And so all of my decision making for the last 2 years has been what I thought was best for all of our kids in West Valley.
Well, thank you for your service. Appreciate it. All right, next we'll have our presentation for the mid-level campus. We have Principal Nick Clark of the middle school and Principal Amber Stiles Gill of the junior high. I see that we have some staff here and some students, so appreciate them being here. And we'll have Mr. Clark and Ms. Stiles Gill will introduce the staff and students that are here. And we'll go ahead and have the board join the audience because I believe we're having a PowerPoint. So we'll take a moment here to transition and have the board join the audience.
Come on now. We're in this together. All right. I want to welcome you guys. Good evening, Dr. Finch and members of the board, student representatives, and members of the community. We want to welcome you to the MLC, specifically the middle school library. My name is Nick Clark, and I'm the principal of the middle school.
I'm Amber Stiles Gill, principal of the junior high.
And currently, there are around 1,190 students, grades 6 through 8 here on campus. We have 64 certificated staff, and a grand total, including the cooks and the junior high and all that, is 126 people under our roofs. Okay. Serving our students. We have two really big focuses this year that we're going to kind of talk about. The first one is mastery-based learning and the implementation of that. And the second one is to reintroduce our PBIS and SEL behavioral supports. And so to start with our mastery-based, our initiatives start with a membership. All right. Starts with a membership of the collaborative. This membership includes grant monies to help with the transition. Currently, we're in our third year of receiving this grant, which includes work with a cohort of schools from around the state that shares intention of implementing mastery-based in the coming years. And so a big part of this implementation has been finding time for teacher collaboration. This is a big undertaking for us. We need to identify essential standards, develop proficiency scales, and common assessments and build common assessments are major steps towards this implementation. This is the second year of providing teachers multiple days of collaboration to continue developing those proficiency scales and assessments. This time we also are used to observe each other, to reflect on our instructional practices in the classroom as well as it pertains to implementing this mastery base. Okay. Amber.
All right. So all of this work that we've been doing really couldn't happen without our amazing instructional coaches. So we have Kimber Henning here and Jody Scott, and they've been instrumental in just making things work for our teachers and keeping the focus on what we need to do to help our students succeed. It's kind of a shout out to them. And they're also here to help us with any questions. They've been knee deep in all of the work that our teachers have been doing. We have a couple examples, a few slides here of just kind of to show you what this is looking like in practice. If you're familiar with our elementary school model and the report card at elementary, some of this will look familiar. We use a 1, 2, 3, 4 scale in elementary. And so we are transitioning towards these proficiency scales that you see like on your left-hand side there. And what's a little bit different about these is that we don't use them for every single thing that we teach, but we have looked at our essential standards, what do kids need to be able to know, be able to do to be successful moving on to each grade level. And so this is one example from a geography class on the left-hand side, and then some independent science projects on the right-hand side. But they look similar for all of our teachers and all of our content areas. And you'll notice there are some 0.5 little pieces in there. So really our teachers, when they build these scales, there's a couple different ways to look at it, but 3 is the standard. So we start with that. We start with our state standard. And then 2, those are those foundational skills that kids need in order to meet that standard. 1 has some of those pieces, and the 0.5, those tend to be like kids have some of what's below, or they have all of what's below and some of what's right above that. But to reach the 4, that means a student has exceeded. They've gone beyond the standard. And those of you familiar with like Bloom's taxonomy or depth of knowledge, those are higher level thinking kinds of things that they have to be able to show and be able to do. All right, so in our math and science classes, they have started making their assessments where they have questions leveled, aligned with their proficiency scales. It's hard to see on here, but I'll just kind of describe it for you. So they do some level 1, and they want to be able to see, and it's labeled for students so that those students can see like, oh, I have some of these pieces. Level 2, I have some foundational skills. Level 3, they're able to do the standard level work, and then if they're able to attempt the level 4 kinds of questions on their assessments, then obviously they're exceeding that standard. So that just gives them some opportunities to show what they know. And then that, again, that's just pointing out the same kind of thing. Again, in math and science, they found that that's been a good place for them to start, I would say. Makes sense for their content. This is one example of student choice. That's another piece of our mastery-based learning. And this is showing worksheets because that was easiest to show on a slide, but it's not just all about differentiating worksheets. There are different opportunities for students to show what they know in that content area. They don't have to just meet that standard by doing one thing one way. And then you'll see on the left-hand side here, this is something again that might look familiar with those of you that are, accustomed to the elementary scale of 4, 3, 2, 1. Our teachers are starting to post these posters in their classrooms so that students can really start to think about like, oh, okay, if I'm at a 3, I've met the standard, and then what that looks like above and below. When I was an elementary school teacher, I had something similar, but it was a little hamburger. Some people have seen that, like you have just the bun, just the basics, then you get a few things, and the 3 has all the good stuff in it, and the 4 has the lettuce, the tomato, the whole enchilada. So similar concept here with the bikes. And then on the right-hand side, this is just an awesome example. All of these, of course, are from our classrooms. Our pre-engineering teacher has the standard and then has this posted kind of as a piece of his learning target as well and success criteria so that students really know where they're at. They can evaluate right in the moment of whether or not they're able to reach the standard. All right, and then before we move into our students, kind of sharing this piece here, I want to point out 2 pieces that they're not going to have a chance to talk about, but we are, like Mr. Clark said, working really hard on kind of revamping and renewing our focus on those positive behavior systems. We recognize a need for that. And so we've brought some things back that the kids will talk about. We also have a new Tier 1 team. And what that means are Tier 1 meetings. We have a team of staff members who are dedicated to focusing on these positive behavior systems. What's that going to look like? What can we improve on? What can we add? Maybe some things that we need to get rid of, some practices. So that is that piece. And then we have a student advisory rep. So every student goes to advisory every day, and we have reps that are able to give feedback. They meet with Mrs. Williams. Oh, where are you, Miss? Like once a month-ish? Yeah. Okay, once a month. And then they also take information back to their advisory classes. So it's an awesome opportunity for us to get the voice of students and really seek their input so we can make our schools a better place. All right, I'm turn this over to our amazing student leaders. All right.
All right, guys. Maybe. Take over.
Hi, we're student leaders from here at Middle Level Campus. I'm Jasmine, a 7th grader.
I'm Quinn, also a 7th grader.
I'm Kyle, a 7th grader as well.
I'm Noah. I am an 8th grader.
And I'm Haley, another 7th grader. We would like to speak to you about our Tier 1 behavior systems. Tier 1 systems are foundational support systems that involve all students. First, it starts with expectations.
Expectations are rules that everyone follows to keep everyone safe here at school, and RAM means
R stands for respectful.
A stands for accountable.
M stands for motivated.
S stands for service.
RAM bucks are one way for adults to recognize students showing our RAM expectations.
They are earned in many different ways. Some ways that we can earn them: getting to class on time and getting ready to start.
Holding the doors for others.
completing work on time,
Keeping our buildings clean.
And participating in class.
Once earned, students can put their RAM bucks into a drawing that happens weekly, monthly, and yearly for a section of prizes that are donated and bought by our staff, parents, and community.
One thing I see is that students notice other students being acknowledged by earning Rambucks, and that encourages others to display positive behaviors as well.
RAM of the Week is another way that students are recognized. This is a teacher-nominated recognition that identifies students, demonstrating our school core values. If you earn a RAM of the Week award, you get
A sticker, pencil, and a shout out during announcements.
A letter is sent home to your parents.
Recently, another student leader and I designed a spirit bracelet, and students voted on it, and that will be another way to recognize our Rams of the week.
I was happy to see the system of Rambucks return to our school. It gives me something to work forward throughout the school year and actually look forward to Mondays because maybe my name would be drawn.
We started passing out Rambucks at the beginning of October, and on the 31st, we had grade level assemblies celebrating fall and recognizing student activities.
Each assembly, we asked students who had earned a Rambuck to stand up, and almost everyone stood up. And that is all.
I'll say thank you, guys. All right, so as you guys can see, we got a few other pictures, kind of our assembly that we had. This is our recognition assembly. We recognized our athletes. We recognized our Caught Being Goods. We recognized our Rambuck winners. And you can tell it happened on Halloween as well. So it's always fun, right? And so it was a good day overall. And it's fun to recognize those kids as often as we can. And so we want to thank you for letting us share some of these happenings here at the middle school. If you got questions for us or the coaches or the students, we'll open it up to the board. Anybody? All right.
Ask any questions?
I just like to say I heard of a lot of real positive things that are being done at the middle level campus. Nice to see that. We ask this at probably every meeting or time we go to a school. What are your work with PBIS? What are you doing with PBIS at the middle level?
Well, big, there's a tier 3 system. And so right now the kids talked about tier 1. So that's school wide. But we do have a care team in place that's been in place through COVID and throughout. So we've always had tier 2 set up, and that's kind of a small group. If we see a need for a small group of people, we have a group that meets regularly for that. And we also have been really good about working with Catholic Charities and other outside entities working with our tier 3 kids. Those are our intense kids. So we have all 3 tiers are in place and they're working. So we just COVID kind of slowed us down a little bit on tier 1, and we just wanted to kind of take a step back. We've been working with Bella Bukowski and her right-hand man, Will Blackwell, awesome people. And they're really taking us through that tier 1, and we're doing inventories about what we're deficient in and what we excel in. So right now, we really got a lot of pieces moving on this one.
Also, I had shared in my board report about focus on attendance and having that relationship where if a kid is gone, we have a group of students that you're targeting, and then there's someone that makes a call home if the student's absent.
Absolutely. So yeah, we're very.
Well, and I just want to add, we also really fortunate to work with an organization, Community in Schools, and we have someone, we call him a student advocate, and he is an integral piece of this as well, in just building relationships with students, getting to know not just what some people might call tier 3 students or tier 2, there's all students, they're students first. And so he does a great job of just being present, but also getting to know kids that need a little bit of extra support. We're providing, in addition to what Ram Landing offers, he's able to provide some food to our families that need food and build connections that way and do some home visits. And I think that's been a really important piece of our system as well, just making connections with kids, building relationships, right? No good teaching happens without relationships. So.
Thank you.
I heard on the mastery-based education, if you will, or teaching. Have you figured out a way to convert the 1 to 4 to the old scale, A through not so good? Or
Sure, yeah, I can.
and how does that look on a report card that goes home now?
Well, right now with the system that we have, we're trying some different things with Skyward to show that we're using proficiency scales and what that looks like. But we're also exploring some other options. There's a program called Empower that some of our teachers, they're early adopters, and that is I don't want to say easier, but it's a clearer representation of the work that the students are doing and whether or not they're meeting that standard. As far as the conversion from 4.3.2.1 to the letter grades, it's my understanding that that's not really a recommendation based on the philosophy of mastery-based learning, but it is possible. And we've done work with Dr. Marzano, and he has books on this that we have and resources. And so it is possible, which we've talked about with like our courses that are high school credit, and that's something that we will have to work with and work. And so we've got some plans in place for that. We're still talking, as many of you know, I'm also the athletic director. And so we've been talking about what does that look like as far as me checking grades and those kinds of things. So the more we dig into it, then the more we figure out, right? So just like with our teachers, as they try out their proficiency scales, try out their common assessments, you get them in front of actual students, then you do what good teachers do and you revamp those things and find where we need to make the fixes. So I don't know that we have like all of the answers right now, but we're definitely seeking answers and input. We're not the only school that is doing this work. So it's super helpful to be able to work with other districts and get their insight as well.
Well, thank you, because, I had the privilege of a couple of years ago visiting the school down in California, Lindsay, California, who've gone a long ways with this program, mastery-based. But it took them 10 years to get there. And I, for one, am very pleased with the progress that we've made here in West Valley in such a short time. You're well on the way.
Yeah, another shout out to the teachers, Mike. They are putting in the work, and they're in the mud, and they're working. They're really doing it. So we appreciate them, and it's one of those things that little baby steps, right? So that's what we're working towards.
Good. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that presentation.
Yes, very good.
Next is number 7 is public comment. And before we have public comment, I need to read this. Members of public who would like to speak, provide public comment, will sign in. And we have 2 right now. Speakers will be called in order they sign to speak. Speakers will be given 3 minutes for their comments. Public comment is not the proper forum to address concerns about a specific staff member. If a person has concerns about a specific staff member, they should make an appointment with the superintendent to address those concerns. And on our list, the first person is Danae Tarico.
Amber, can you turn it? Right by.
West Valley School District Board, in September, I respectfully but desperately came to you and expressed my concerns of the repeated death threats towards my child and the lack of documentation and discipline your employee, Dr. Peter Finch, and the rest of his admin team are implementing. I was told I would have an official response by the next board meeting. I waited 2 grueling weeks for your next meeting to commence. You collectively read a statement that the district strongly condemns student harassment, intimidation, and bullying, and that the district already does trainings for such matters. You then went on to explain the process of how complaints are to be made and handled within the district, although that's not been our experience with our complaints thus far. After the shock had worn off and I've come to the realization that as a district, your statement of strongly condemning harassment, intimidation, and bullying, it's been made disgustingly clear that it is in fact not condemned. I knew it was time to move on to social media to make my point clear. I took your live stream video from the district's public YouTube page and reposted it. Since I started posting the videos to gain the much needed exposure to these issues to get it the attention it deserves, not only have the periodic check-ins,
the district falsely promised stopped completely. But my son has been alone in the bathroom with this student. Just 3 weeks prior, that same student made threats to stab my son and watch him bleed out in the courtyard and post it on Snapchat. I had been assured that my son's safety would be the highest priority and that he wouldn't cross paths or even had the same lunch or bell schedule as this other student. Tell me how that is keeping his safety top of mind. Clearly, there's another disconnect here. I've watched my inbox and the news hoping for answers and clarity from the district as to what they will do moving forward and how they will proceed. I'm still waiting. I read comment after comment from Dave Jager berating members of the community on how they need to get off the couch, off their phones, and attend school board meetings. Here I am, Dave. I've been here, off my couch, off my phone, and attending your meetings begging for help. When does that start to matter? I heard Mark Strong and Michael Thorner spend more time complaining about their own children not getting into the University of Washington than was spent reading the official response to my public comment at the September 26th meeting. That was infuriating, to say the least. I listened to Peter Finch state that the issues are resolved and say you can check with the parents. To ensure that there are no further disconnects, and I am in no way unclear, these issues are very much not resolved because these matters have still not been addressed by West Valley School District. The fact that these two students are still walking the halls in this district is the very reason this is not resolved. I believe down in my very core, if it were your own children at risk, this would be a much more important issue to you, and it would have escalated a year ago when I first addressed it. I took the time to listen to you. Now it's time that you listen to me. Every single one of you board members and you, Dr. Finch, has failed my child. You continue to do so by letting those boys stay in these schools and walk these halls. They've made threats of murder, rape, and school shootings, but you let them stay. The bullying and the district's negligence towards it and them stops now.
Carol Blevins. Carol Blevins, did I say that right? Okay, that's the only two we have here.
Okay.
All right, should we move on? Approval items, we have minutes from October 24th and November 6th. And we have travel requests. How do you want to handle those?
I would have you take the minutes and ask for approval there and then the travel request.
Okay,
And I'll move that we approve the minutes from the October 24th board meeting and the November 6th special board meeting.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved, 4-0. Approval of travel requests.
You can take those together if you like.
I move we approve travel requests.
Been moved to approve the travel requests. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. They pass. Items arising. Peter.
Any items arising from the board?
Okay, superintendent's report.
That was included. We're ongoing concern about attendance, and so I shared the information from the secondary principals on how they've identified groups of students that they're going to target to provide personal contact whenever the child is absent and to check in with the students, make sure that they're attending school.
Thank you. Board reports.
Well, if we can, Mr. Jager, I'd like to back up to number 9. Items arising.
Okay.
In that my last chance to get on a soapbox, really. And I would like to ask an administration get on Ms. Tomiko's concerns and follow through. As you know, I've tooted that horn, or this one, many times about the bullying culture
Yep.
in this district. And it's been well known since I went here, way back. There's always been that we-they mentality, and the bullying is the we's, and the kids that get bullied are the they's. And it's one of those things that has to stop. And I realize, and maybe the public doesn't, that our hands are tied into what we can refer to law enforcement and those kind of things. And then it goes into more meetings and more ideas, but the prosecutors refuse to take a lot of it on. And that's because of our wonderful legislators over in the Olympia, over in the Capitol. And they've minimized the offenses to the point that prosecutors don't want to have them. So to kick it back out into the parental realm, if you will, and the schools. And it's really a tough nut to crack. But I know that at least the board members I've sat with for a lot of years now are fully behind me in that respect, and the administration. And I don't know, other than it's so ingrained in our culture out here that it's really tough to make a change. We don't get the parental support along even those lines until something happens to one child that brings it back to everybody's attention. And no child is more important than the other one in this district. And that should be the way it is. It's one of the things that we're trying for and trying to achieve. And as you pointed out, up to this point, we've not been able to do that. And I'm very sorry that we failed you. But I'm sure on my way out, more things will get done. Dr. Finch is a very ethical and moral man.
Well, we again do reiterate that safety of students is the top priority. We do want a safe foundation for learning for all of our students. We do have positive supports across the district that we've been focusing on. For a specific case, my understanding was that the specific case, the issue was resolved. I've heard this evening very clearly the issue is not resolved, and so we will follow up on the specific case. But of course, that's something that we would not discuss in a public meeting, but certainly I will be following up with Mr. Rico, and we'll make sure that this issue does get resolved.
Ms. Tarico, would you, since you're willing to come to the school board, would you be willing to come back in about 3 months and get up there and speak again and talk about the progress that has been made in the 3 months?
What's the significance of 3 months?
To see that something's been done?
I'm willing to come back, sure.
Great. You'd kind of give us a progress report or give the school board a progress report? Thank you. Okay, back to board reports, board development, anything? Okay. Are we done?
Yep, we're done. You can call for adjournment.
Call for adjourn.
There we go.
All in favor?
Fantastic.
Let's go.